Right, I think we are live. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. Let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. And welcome to a slightly different type of video than I normally cover on the channel. This is just going to be a 20-30 minute video, which is going to be a preview of an upcoming game called, and it's trying to win the award for the longest named game that I've ever covered on the channel. This is Fighting Fantasy Quest, the Warlock of Firetop Mountain. This is a new game which is going to be coming to crowdfunding later on this year, and I'm going to be actually covering it on the channel in a few months' time. But the reason why we're doing this video now is because you are going to be able to see this game at UK Games Expo. There is going to be a demo available at the booth where Ian Livingston is going to be, and you can get a demo of the game there if you want to see more about it, which is why we're doing this video just ahead of UK Games Expo. Now, a little bit of a personal story before we dive into the details. This is my original 1982 copy of The Warlock of Firetop Mountain, the first ever fighting fantasy book that came out. And I think it's fair to say I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for this book, because a 12-year-old me, who was a big fan of fantasy and science fiction, saw this game in a bookshop, bought it. This led to Dungeons & Dragons, this led to all sorts of other games, and I am where I am today because of this book. And a lot of people have a very similar story who are around my age. So this was one of the first ever choose your own adventure books. Then in 1986, Games Workshop did the Warlock of Firetop Mountain board game, which you can see has got a little bit of water damage. This is my old copy. This is nearly 40 years old now. And I played this game a lot back in the day. But the fighting fantasy world and the fighting fantasy system it's undergone a number of changes over the years. There are still books coming out. Ian Livingston is still writing them. Jonathan Green is still involved as well. And there's going to be a new version. So this new version, Fighting Fantasy Quest of the Warlock of Firetop Mountain, is not just a reboot or a second edition or anything of the old game. It's a completely new standalone game. And I'm now going to introduce you to Jan from Ulysses Spiel and Paul, who is the designer of the game. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Hopefully people can hear you.
Good afternoon. Yeah, thank you for having us.
There you go. Hopefully you can hear them. Let me know if you can, because then everything's working fine. And who wants to go first?
Well, maybe do a little bit about the history of the thing, and that would be Paul, who's been the inspirational driver behind the whole idea.
So Paul, tell me when you first showed me a prototype of this game in a corner in Essen and said, "Don't tell anybody about this." Yeah. How many years ago was that?
I think that was about 4 years ago, because we started in 2020 January. That's the first time we actually got in touch with Steve Jackson for another project, and that basically morphed into this. We are, of course, big fans of the books, right? And we thought that, maybe starting with the original one, with the first one, which everybody knows, maybe it would be a better idea right now. So,
right,
this is this is where we are now with it.
Yeah, but you've been working on this game for many years, and presumably it has changed and it has developed over the years, and it's different from what you originally had in mind.
I wouldn't say that. Maybe a little bit, because the original concept was a bit more, how you said it, chaotic. And then we agreed that maybe, going with the book, going with the locations, the enemies, items and everything would make much more sense. And then basically we saw that map they made a map of the Warlock of Firetop Mountain for one of the editions, And when we saw that, we just realized, wow, why don't we just make it, look like that map?
Right.
And then give the players really that feeling that I am genuinely exploring what's in the book. If I would pick up the book and start reading it while I play the board game, I would run into the same things, sometimes maybe in the same order. But the twist here is that we talked with Jan Livingston about it, that we wanted to make it a bit more, how you say it, expanded. And he allowed us creative control over this expansion to make certain things a little bit different, a little bit more tricky, add some things here, do something there, and basically it's the experience of the book, but with a lot of surprises, which makes sense in the universe and were approved by Ian Livingstone. So,
yes. And as a fan of the game, you're going to stick as close as you can to the source material wherever possible because you want to. You're not going to go off at a tangent when you're such a fan of the original setting.
Yeah, this is one of the things that we always kind of not clash, but we go into these kind of like discussions because I really, really wanted everything from the book there, starting the keys, even the cheese, and you're going to find everything there, but not everything might be as you expect it to be.
Right. Yes.
And the problem is that I don't want to give away any kind of spoilers.
Now, in terms of the game itself, I know a little bit about it, but from what I understand is that you don't play one game of this and it's actually the entire book. Am I right in thinking that each individual game is just a small part of the book, and that is it a campaign? Do you connect the stories together?
So it is.
Sorry,
it is.
go ahead, Paul.
Sorry, it goes in the order basically of how you read it, but we all know that this is not a straightforward game when you think about the book, right? It's your decisions practically through the path that you're taking. We did it in kind of the same way. Based on your decisions, you're going to explore the the mountain, right? And when you come back to play it again, you're going to probably have a kind of a different experience. You will know certain things, but you might run into things that you haven't seen before. And yes, just to confirm your original question, this is a multi-station board game, but it's a campaign game. So your progress goes from map to map. The items you collect, the things that happen to you are all staying with you. And of course, as you dwell deeper in the dungeon, enemies are going to be more powerful, right? You will need all the tactics, everything you learned is going to be put on test, And we also really, really wanted you to have that feeling that when you're exploring something and you think that next time I'm being in this room, next time I'm being in this situation, I know what to do. Well, we have a surprise for that as well. So.
Right. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head on over to Tabletop Simulator. Now, this is not a publicly available mod. This is a private mod that you guys have been using to help test the game and things like that. But hopefully, if we just get rid of me and turn that on, hopefully this is going to work. Let me know if you can see the Tabletop Simulator mod in the background. Yeah, I think it has just come up. So the first thing I'm seeing is we have 4 playable characters. Is this a 1 to 4 player game?
Yes. So what you'll have, you can solo it, because you can play 4 characters once, but it definitely is a group game. So one of the first tasks for us was to make a single player game, which the books essentially are, into a multiplayer game, and make that relevant. So it's a lot of the decisions that we have in the things that we change from the book, or the mechanics that we use, are based on the fact that yes, you've got 4 players, and obviously everybody needs to have their own fun. It's cooperative, so all of the 4 characters need to succeed together, or they perish together. But there is also a cooperative, competitive version of it, so you still can lose together, but there is a way to win individual quests. Hence, also the Fighting Fantasy quest part of it. So whilst you have to still finish your campaign, if you together, you will have different win conditions essentially that give you victory points that allow you to secretly win a little more than everybody else.
Okay, so I'm just looking at one of the characters here. I've got the screen focused on Brom, and I just want to talk about the artwork. How close to what we're looking at here is final? Is that artwork? Is that the final artwork for the game?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So what we try to do, and we'll see that later on when we come to the dungeon, is wherever we can, we're using original artwork. So you'll see a lot of the artwork from the book recolored. But obviously the book didn't have a main character. So for the main characters, we've got our own artwork. and for some monsters and some situations that didn't exist in the book, we also have that. We try to have a style that's reminiscent, let's say, of the 80s
You've done it
of
right.
the time.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm looking at it and I'm feeling that it is very similar to the original. It's not, but it kind of looks like that. So you've managed to capture that exactly right. Any old timers like me are going to look at that and going to start getting excited. So
yeah, that was the idea, and we wanted. I mean, it still needs to look for people that, like, the 5 people that don't know the book. They still need to be able to actually enjoy the artwork. So it's a little bit modernized, but like a lot of the elements, even the coloration, like you'll see a lot of colors that are from the 80s.
Yes.
If you look at the mage, for example, that's clearly something.
Yes,
where
purple.
probably if you used a modern example, you wouldn't immediately go there in terms of the coloration, but we definitely wanted it to have that vibe and
excellent.
And exactly like you say, it needs to feel like you're there.
Yes, yeah. So what have we got here? We've got on the top left, we've got a map.
Yeah. So
Yes.
that's the map that was made not a few years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And basically they made maps from the other books as well, but this one really captures the key moments, like some of the most fun moments from the book, right? And you also have a little map or legend describing where you can find key items, like key. But basically speaking, if you look at this map and then you pan over to the main board, we're going to see that what we are seeing on the main board right now is basically the bottom part of this. Let me just like this part.
Exactly. Just to be clear, the map is not part of the game. This is just to illustrate what we're doing. So this is our blueprint, let's say, for how we make the different levels come out and how we arrange the stuff.
Okay.
So we are trying to be, of course, we are also paying attention. If something was in the book to the left, it's on the left. If something was to the right, on the right. But this map pretty clearly visualizes the whole mountain and all the dungeons, all the corridors and rooms,
Right.
And as I explained it before, every room is there,
Yes.
But of course, sometimes you see on the map some rooms being a bit, on the side from each other. Here is basically these little title cards that you're showing right now. So if you zoom in just a little bit, you're going to see that you have that famous door that you're encountering when you start the book, right? Which you can break in. That's on the right. Then on the left, you can see that there's the little tables, room with the little table and the candles. And down the corridor, you have the sleeping orc. And as you go in, you have the 2 drunken goblins there, and the war chief is beating up on that poor guy. So these are all in the first, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes while you're reading the book. They are there, and now they really make sense with each other. So they give you this absolute power to explore the book, and say, I remember this scene, I don't really remember what happened here, but I know that this was in the book.
Yes.
But
so this setup that we have here, this 4x5 grid, is this the setup for the first time you play? Is that what it would look like the first time we play the game?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
Exactly,
that's the level. So the what you see below, essentially, you can see there's some letters there. This is essentially for the setup. Every level that you have in the game, every session that you have, essentially will be a scenario setup, depending on which part of the map you are in. And this is the first mission. And to the right, you can see a couple of other tile cards where there's additional sessions that you can set up. These are the first 3 levels that you have in the game. But so that's the way it's set up. And then these are always fixed. So next time you play them, they are going to be in the same location, which is important because replaying is part of the fun in the book. Trying to figure out, navigate a way and be optimized, essentially, your gameplay. And we want you to have that same opportunity because some people, when we showed it to them, they were like, well, but then I know what's under, this here or what's happening here. And we'll come to that in a little while, but that's actually, yes, you do, and that's part of it, and we want you to know it because it helps you play better the next time as a player, not as a character. It's not, your improvement comes with the player knowing more, not necessarily with the character getting extra skills.
Right. Okay, so do you want to go through roughly the core idea of how the game plays? We've got we've set up for level 1. We've got the 4 characters in the starting location. What kind of thing do you do when on a turn?
Okay, so on a turn, you have a movement. There's free movement, which is 2 spaces. You stop whenever you run into anything that's on a tile. So this is a free tile. This is an occupied tile. And whenever you run onto something, what you do is you just flip it. And in this case, these are random encounters. So they are not fixed. They're attributed randomly. And you essentially have run into a trap here. This means that you have to roll a certain amount of dice to succeed. Otherwise, you get 3 fatigue because you essentially have to wade through a puddle. And the way you do this is you have 2 dice for skill, which is from the character. And these are our skill dice. They also are combat dice, so they are used for both. You want to roll swords for success. So in this case, if you have a force roll, which is the little symbol with a fist, each character has a different specialty. So the knight, for example, that has a force specialty. So his skill his extra skill is 4, so he gets an extra die. Okay. The bard would have charm, the mage has vision, and the rogue obviously would have stealth. Yeah. So depending on the situation, there's different levels of traps that you might find, and then you just roll the dice. And swords are successes in this case for a skill roll, and you want as many swords as you can. You have to clear a certain number. In this level, it's 2. This number goes up as the game progresses, but for currently, you would have to have 2 successes in order to evade this, which in this case I didn't roll. But the good thing, as you remember in the game, luck is always something that you can use. Every character also has a luck stat, and they can spend luck if they want to, and if they have any left. Depending on the characters, they have different amounts of starting luck. Yeah. So you could spend that luck for reroll. Let's say I'm not happy with slipping on the pool. Here's a reroll. There's 2 successes on this one. Okay. Excellent. I've managed to evade that, put it away, and this is my turn. So the turns are really quick. Yeah. We don't want long downtimes for everybody. And this continues. So you can explore, let's just assume, let's you make a move. I mean, what happens if I was to go on to here? Yeah. Or is that where we came in? That's not where we came in. Right. No, that's not what we're doing. So this now tells you go to a card, and then this tile here, or these cards come into play. Yeah. So these are kind of like the book story parts. So if you alt on it, then you can maybe see it a little larger. Yeah. And that tells you a little story, as you would have in the book. In this case, the door is locked firmly shut. And you would, again, have to have a test with a target number of 2 in order to succeed. And depending on whether you succeed or not, there's success or failure, and there's different results depending on whether you succeeded or failed. Got it. Okay. So then this would go away as well. And you start to clean out, essentially, the dungeon, which also is relevant because you're cleaning up or clearing the way for other characters. So part of the game is essentially deciding, okay, I want to go there, but that also affects everybody else because now this can be moved to, or you can move here. Right. Okay. And so you slowly start to clean the map. And we've got these black lines then, presumably doors. Yes. Or walls or something like that. These are actually walls. Right. We didn't have there's wall graphics, but unfortunately they didn't make it into the new version because, So the only way through here is past the sleeping guard. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, but one thing to mention is that when you encounter one of these tiles with a story on it, it's not always you need to make a test. Sometimes you need to make, just as in the book, you need to have a decision. And we give you options. If you go a bit to down, there's a top card there. Right. Okay. it, you can see that these are basically options that you can, some of them are directly taken from the book,
Yep.
some of them are not, right? You'll see later. And after you make a decision, you flip the card, and then you have the outcome. And sometimes the outcome is chain reacting to another card. You
Right,
know?
got it.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So this is level 1, and you already mentioned
Yep.
that this map here, and just as a reminder, this map does not come with the game. Level 1 is kind of down here. So how many levels is the whole mountain?
The total of the mountain currently is 19 levels, but you're not going to see every level in a playthrough
Right.
because there's decisions between levels where you go like, okay, so there's a, as you can see on the map, like there's a large track to the right, there's a large track to the left. Depending on where you decide to go, you'll
Yeah.
see this part or you'll see the other part.
Yeah, okay. So 19 levels. And how long would it take to play one level?
We are aiming for something like 3/4 of an hour.
Okay.
An hour. Some levels are a little quicker, depending on how well you do in combat, for example. But by and large, we want you to be able to finish in an hour, so you can decide whether you want to play a second one in this evening or you're happy with a session.
Yeah. So in a standard game session, you'd probably get 2 or 3 levels done.
If you've got that time in the evening. I mean, it depends also on the group. We've seen groups that are like optimizing very heavily, so there's a lot of discussion and going like, oh, do you want to do this, and then obviously the more you chat about it, the more time passes, which is good because then hopefully you're excited about it.
Right.
But there's also groups that are like really efficient and just everybody knows what they're doing. So the longer you play it, I think obviously you get the hang of it, and some decisions will be easier or quicker.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier on that
one thing,
Go on.
No, there's one of the things that probably you're aiming at as well is we do not expect you to be able to finish each level successfully at the first attempt.
Right. Okay. And what would happen then if you failed the level? Would you then have to replay that level?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a replay. You reset it. Which is part of the gameplay. I mean, in the first level, if you die in the first level, we had that happen.
Okay.
It's not completely impossible. I myself, we had a session with Marcus Coyne actually, who looked at it, and we were like explaining it, and then we said, let's play a game, and he was like, yeah, I'm game. It's like, okay, so we started on, and I explained what we're doing, why we're doing it. And then, sort of mid-game, it was very clear that we had terribly lost and that we rolled badly, had a couple of bad cards coming up, and I died in my own game in the first level with Marcus Coyne watching me.
Nice.
That was surely a high point.
Yeah, I mean, if you're having to replay a level and it's only about 45 minutes, then that's okay. It's when you're playing a game that's 3 hours long and you fail near the end, and you're like, okay, we got to replay it, and you're like, oh. So
yeah, nobody wants to do that. No, I mean this is actually an opportunity because the other part is you probably won't be able to clean out the map completely every time. It depends again on how efficient you are, roll of the dice, some luck. But by and large, you can expect to leave something on the table where you maybe go like, oh, next time I want to try this, and you go there and you go there, and then you optimize your strategy essentially around it.
Yeah,
we don't think it's not that difficult. It's possible to play and win at every map at the first attempt. Mm-hmm. We do not want you to die, but we do expect you to die like once or twice, maybe. Okay. Just add a little bit of spice.
So and there's this thing we call the danger track, which basically we don't really want you to just spend time exploring everything. During the game when you play, there's this track which goes from 1 to 10. It goes deeper and deeper in the volcano, and basically you draw cards from here, which will have the Warlock, right, send some very good things towards you. Mm-hmm. But if this track, everything is 10 or above, you are dead.
Right.
So this is also like there's kind of like this time pressure, but this token can be manipulated by things you do in the dungeon. So there's that looming over you as well.
Okay. So one thing that I was going to talk about now that I've got a clearer picture of the game is you mentioned that replayability is a factor in games, because otherwise once you've played it once, you know what's on the other side of the card, you think, there's no need for me to replay this game again. Right, let's just take a step back. You've got 19 levels. Now you won't do all 19 levels all the way to get to the end because there are branched choices. how many levels would you say it would take to play the campaign through from start to finish?
Minimum we're currently looking at is 14 or 15. I can't remember because we changed them. Oh no, it's So that's the minimum you need to play.
Yeah.
Full campaign.
So we play 14 levels at about 45 minutes to an hour a level, and then that's it. Now, if we then say, right, we've played the game, we've completed it, we don't want to replay it again, that's still 3 or 4 evenings game sessions that you've had from the game. But I think the idea is that you could play it again, and yes, you might know some of the cards, but you might not know all of them. And to be honest, by the time I replay it, I'm going to forget it. So for me, it's all fine.
That's very much my experience.
Yeah. And especially when we've got the sleeping guard, there were 3 options to get past the sleeping guard. So you play it again, and you're like, okay, well, which option should we choose next time? So yeah.
Exactly, and there's a chain option as well. So if you look at the sleeping guard card, for example, you can see that this says draw encounter 104, draw encounter 105.
Yeah.
So there is another branch behind this one because the next card will also have several options.
Yeah.
And that again has several options.
Okay.
And then there's not always a one way to find through it. So some of the adventure books you have, obviously you'll have there's an ideal path to things.
Yes.
But we do have a lot of randomization that comes either from those tokens. So these encounter tokens can be a lot of different things. They can also be positive. These cards play a role. So after every turn, once 4 of you have moved, they happen, and they might change what you need, for example. So you go like, we're running out of stamina, and then an event comes that makes you even more exhausted.
Right.
And all of a sudden, treasure is not at the top of your mind. You're going to go like, okay, we need to finish as fast as we can. So there is a lot of variation within those sort of fixed points that you know on the map.
Got it.
But there's also a lot of additional variation. So even like I literally playing the first level now, I think for, I'm going to guess the 30th time.
Okay.
And as mentioned, in session 25, where 25th time of my own game, I died because I miscalculated.
Right. Okay.
I was just getting arrogant.
Yeah.
So I think there's enough variety. I would say on an sort of an average play, I reckon like playing the whole campaign 2-3 times will give you enough joy and enough different things to do that you don't feel you already know what's happening.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, assuming that this game does well and is successful, what does the future hold for the system? Because this is Fighting Fantasy Quest, Warlock of Firetop Mountain.
Yeah. That's the reason for the long title, is that we can put something else after Fighting Fantasy Quest. So the first idea, obviously, the reason we put it this way is there's an abstraction happening here where with just a bunch of those cards and those cards, you can create all the other books as well. Okay. So the idea is if we successfully crowdfund, if the game is popular enough and people like it, we will definitely do more of the books. Because Forest of Doom is just around the corner. And the other hope that we have, because as you mentioned, we started with something that we did for Steve Jackson. So we started with essentially the sorcery books. Yeah. That have a slightly different, like it's a different game. It's not the exact same game, but there's some similarities. And that would be the other branch that we can take, essentially, where we go like, okay, people like this. It makes enough money. We can afford to do a full other game.
Right. So, for example, if you were to do Forest of Doom or Death Trap Dungeon or something like that, that would basically be more cards. Yes. The rest of the game would be the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. One of the reasons, actually, I mean, that's for me personally a thing that I'm getting tired of, to be honest, is like there's a lot of expensive Kickstarters that I really, really like and really want, and it's great to have these wonderful things. But they are really, really expensive, and they're getting more expensive by the day. What I wanted to have is a game that you have an initial invest in it, and then there's small card boxes we can print at a low price, we can ship at a low price, and we can sell it at a low price. That will give you a new game experience, because the whole story, all the encounters and all the randomization comes fresh with that particular setting, and maybe an additional rule or two. And that's the idea, to have these small card packs that we can essentially give you as sort of additional packs, but that give you a full game experience that then lasts you again, 15 sessions and
Yeah.
hours and
Yeah.
hours.
Excellent. So if people want to actually try this game, they can at UK Games Expo, which is happening in just over a week time. Which booth number is it?
That's your part, Paul.
Yeah. Hey, I had it, I swear.
You had
it's,
it.
2-359.
359.
I'm going.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to be there personally. So come up, say hi. Let me show you the game. Talk about it. Everybody's gonna be here.
Yeah. Get a demo of it, or just have a look at it in person. And as I mentioned at the start, a physical prototype of this game is going to be on its way to me at some point, and I am going to be doing a playthrough video on the channel just before the actual crowdfunding. Which, do we have a rough timescale for when the crowdfunding's going?
So we were looking at September as the start for the crowdfunding. Given the current tariff situation in the world, I'm not going to name names. We are a little cautious. If it's died down by then and stabilized, we probably will hold to that timeline. But we may also want to wait a little more because I don't want to have a huge fluctuation in shipping prices once we go out.
I mean, one of the some of the other publishers, going slightly off topic here, have been launching crowdfunding campaigns recently. They've been saying, look, this is the cost of the game. We're going to charge you shipping later. We don't know what the shipping is going to be, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Because at the moment, it feels unfair to put something on crowdfunding and charge people shipping when nobody knows what the shipping is going to be. So I've seen a few companies
and in both directions
do it later. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
excellent. Right.
So September looks likely. Yeah.
Okay, roughly September. Right. Well, thank you very much for your time today. And as I say, if you're at UK Games Expo, swing by Hall 2, booth number 359. And yes, Wolf 359 is exactly the first thing that came to my mind when you said that, being a Star Trek fan as well. Paul will be there. He will be demoing this game, and you can go and meet Ian Livingston. And I will be getting my book signed by him. So that's what I'll be doing. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much, Jan.
Thanks
for having us.
Okay, thank you very much for watching. Hope that was useful and fun, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.